It was early September. The air still clinging to the last remnants of summer heat. But with the faint crispness of fall starting to creep in. My birthday was approaching. Not that it mattered much. The quiet hum of the household was routine by now. It had been that way for years. The forgotten celebrations. The absent recognition. Growing up, I used to be excited about my birthday. I would count the days, eagerly awaiting that one day where I thought, just maybe, I'd be the center of attention. But over time, the excitement dulled. I guess that's what happens when you live in the shadow of a golden child. My sister, Emily, was the perfect daughter in my parents' eyes. Blonde hair, blue eyes, and an air of perfection that seemed to follow her wherever she went. Or at least, that's what they saw. I saw something different. I saw the tantrums, the manipulation, the endless demands that turned the entire house upside down whenever she didn't get her way. And every time, it worked. Every meltdown, every outburst, only served to remind them how special she was and how much attention she needed. It didn't matter that I was there too, waiting patiently on the sidelines. Emily always came first. The first time they forgot my birthday, I was 7. I remember sitting in the kitchen, staring at the clock as the day slipped by. My parents were busy in the living room, comforting Emily, who was hysterical because her ballet recital didn't go the way she wanted. Her performance wasn't perfect. And that was apparently a catastrophe that required the entire family's attention. I sat at the table, quietly waiting for them to remember. But they didn't. I ended up going to bed that night with no cake, no presents, no birthday wishes. The second time, I was 10. Emily had just started middle school, and she was having trouble fitting in. Her new friends weren't giving her enough attention, so she decided to create drama. The morning of my birthday, she threw a fit, claiming that someone had said something mean to her at school, and she refused to go back. My parents were consumed by her tears and complaints. So my birthday passed by unnoticed once again. That time, I didn't even bother reminding them. What was the point? I could tell from the way they fussed over Emily that nothing else mattered. The third time, I was 15. By then, I had learned to lower my expectations. I didn't ask for much, just a small acknowledgement would have been enough. But on that day, Emily had another one of her episodes. She had failed her driver's test and was furious. She screamed and cried for hours, demanding that my parents call the DMV to fix it. Like it was somehow their fault. They were so focused on calming her down. I might as well have been invisible. I spent that birthday in my room, scrolling through social media and pretending like it didn't hurt as much as it did. By the time I turned 16, I had stopped caring about birthdays altogether. It was easier that way. I learned to celebrate in small ways, with friends or by treating myself. I figured if I didn't expect anything from my parents, I couldn't be disappointed when they inevitably forgot again. But it still stung. 15 years of neglect leave scars. Scars that cut deep and are hard to shake off. No matter how much I tried to pretend otherwise. My entire childhood was defined by being second place. And no matter how hard I tried to get their attention, it was always Emily who stole the spotlight. It wasn't just about birthdays, though those were the most obvious examples. It was about every moment where I needed them. And they weren't there. Every soccer game they missed because Emily had something more important going on. Every parent-teacher conference they skipped because Emily needed help with her homework. Every family dinner that turned into a discussion about Emily's problems. While I sat quietly, fading into the background. And the worst part, they didn't even notice. My parents were so wrapped up in Emily's world that they didn't see how much it was hurting me. It was like I was a ghost in my own home, drifting through the years unnoticed. I remember the turning point clearly. I was 22, just out of college, and living on my own. Emily had just graduated high school and was preparing to go to an expensive private university. My parents were thrilled. Of course. They couldn't stop talking about how proud they were of her. How she was going to do great things. Meanwhile, I had just landed my first job at a marketing firm and was struggling to make ends meet. I called them one night, hoping to share the news of my promotion. But they were too busy talking about Emily's latest accomplishment. That's when it hit me. I would never be enough for them. No matter how hard I tried, I would always be second to Emily. It was a hard pill to swallow, but it gave me clarity. I stopped trying to seek their approval. I stopped calling as often. I stopped visiting. I built my own life, away from the constant comparison and the crushing disappointment. For a while, it worked. I found peace in the distance. I made new friends, found hobbies that made me happy, and threw myself into my career. I stopped caring about their opinion of me. Or at least that's what I told myself. Then my 30th birthday came around. I hadn't spoken to my parents in a couple of years at that point. We'd exchanged the occasional text message. But it was clear that Emily still occupied most of their attention. I had almost convinced myself that I didn't need them anymore. That I was fine on my own. But on the morning of my 30th birthday, I woke up with a familiar ache in my chest. I told myself it didn't matter if they remembered or not. That I was used to being forgotten. Still, part of me hoped that maybe this year would be different. Maybe, just maybe, they would remember. I got a text from my mom that afternoon. Hey, just wanted to check in. How's everything going? No mention of my birthday. No acknowledgement of the day I was born. Just a casual check-in. Like I was some distant acquaintance they barely thought about. I stared at the message for a long time, my heart sinking. I wanted to reply with something snarky, to point out that once again, they had forgotten. But I didn't. I was tired. Tired of trying to make them care. Instead, I put my phone down and went for a walk. The air was cool and crisp. The first signs of fall creeping in. As I walked, I thought about all the birthdays that had come and gone. All the times I had been let down. I thought about Emily. And how much space she still took up in my parents' lives. Even after all these years. When I got home, there was a voicemail from my dad. I almost didn't listen to it. But curiosity got the better of me. Hey. It's Dad. Just wanted to wish you a happy birthday. I know we've been busy lately. But I hope you're doing well. We should catch up soon. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. After all this time, they had finally remembered. But it didn't feel like enough. Not after 15 years of being overlooked and forgotten. One voicemail wasn't going to make up for all the times they had let me down. I deleted the message and went about my day. Later that evening, as I sat alone in my apartment, I realized something important. My parents weren't going to change. They had spent my entire life putting Emily first. And that wasn't going to stop, just because I was finally old enough to see it clearly. But I didn't have to let it define me anymore. I made a decision that night. I wasn't going to keep waiting for them to notice me, to finally give me the love and attention I had craved for so long. I wasn't going to let their neglect shape my self-worth anymore. I had built a life for myself, and that was enough. The next morning, I woke up feeling lighter. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't sad. I was free. And for the first time in 15 years, I celebrated my birthday on my own terms. The next morning, sunlight streamed through my window, casting a warm glow over the room. I made coffee and sat by the window, feeling lighter than I had in years. For so long, I had let my parents' neglect and Emily's shadow define me. But now, sitting there with the day ahead of me, I realized I didn't need their validation anymore. They would never change. But I could. I had my own life, my own happiness to build. And I was finally ready to let go of the past. For the first time in 15 years, I felt truly free, and that was the best gift I could have ever received.